Good evening and welcome to tonight's school board, FWCS Board of School Trustees, meeting. We begin this meeting as we do each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we have roll call of members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Julie Hollingsworth, District 1.
Jennifer Mathias, District 2.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
Noah Smith, District 3.
And to my left, we have Dr. Mark Daniels, Superintendent, Fort Wayne Community Schools, and Angie Filler, Clerk of the Board, and I'm Maria Norman, Member at Large. This evening for awards and recognition, we start out with a graduation highlight video. Fort Wayne Community Schools recently celebrated the class of 2024 during graduation ceremonies for each high school. Nearly 1,900 graduates received their diplomas on May 31st and June 1st at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. The highlight video captures moments from FWCS graduation ceremonies from Fort Wayne Virtual Academy and Northrop North Side, Snider, Southside, and Wayne High Schools. Oh, that was so good. All right. And congratulations to all the graduates and their families. All right. And next up on the agenda is our consent agenda, which includes approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on May 13th, 2024, student recognition meeting on May 20th, 2024, vouchers and payroll, and the personnel report. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Thanks.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Noah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Dr. Daniel? Okay, thank you. All right, we have no old business, so we move on to new business. First on the agenda is the Snider High School Japan trip in the summer of 2027. Steve, can you do that?
Yes.
Thank you.
It is recommended the board approve a trip to Japan that will include stops in Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, Takayama, and Hakone. This international trip will take place June 7th to 14th in 2027. The goal of the trip is to immerse our students at Snider in the rich Japanese culture enhancing their perspectives on language, history, art, geography, and culture. The students will have exposure to new types of food, music, spoken language. They will visit famous historical places such as I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly, Meiji Shrine, the Akihabara Electric Town, Shibuya Crossing, Lake Ashi Cruise, Matsumoto Castle, Nara Deer Park, and the Kasuga Grand Shrine. Meals are provided daily for students, and they will have a full-time tour guide showing them around all of these interesting locations. And we have a couple of representatives from Snider to talk about this if we have questions about this interesting trip.
Thanks, Steve. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move for approval?
Second.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Jen. Any questions for Maggie Rudolph, Snider Special Education teacher, or Mr. Hissong, principal at Snider, are here to answer our questions.
So what travel company are you using and what is the cost to the students?
So we're going through Explorica, and our final cost is $45.71.
How many kids are you hoping to take?
I'm sorry, what?
How many kids are you hoping to take?
I'm not sure. We're hoping for maybe 15 to 20, but we're open to more, depending on the interest.
Is it going to be open to the whole student population or grades
Yes. No.
10
Yep.
through 12? Or?
Probably 10 through 12, just kind of basing on like who will be able to come for fundraising opportunities and all of that. But we're planning on reaching out to Blackhawk and Lane for their 8th grade class because they'll be the sophomores that year.
And can their parents go?
I wish we had the space for that.
You know adults can go?
I'm sorry, what?
Can
Yeah,
adults can
adults can go, yeah. We have a couple going on our Costa Rica trip.
What made you pick Japan?
It's a very popular place that a lot of our students have interest in going to see, as well as like they're interested in the culture and music and all of that stuff. So we figured it'd be a hit and kids would be interested in going.
Will you get to stop in, I don't know where these places are in comparison, but Takaoka? Is it-
I'm not sure. I don't think we will be. It doesn't seem like it's one of the ones on our list, unfortunately.
We have several companies in the community that have, I think their home base in Japan. Might we reach out to them and see what interest or perhaps support they would offer your students?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, you've got a couple of years to
I'm
work.
sure they'd be happy for a list, Steve.
Huh?
Yeah,
They'd be happy for
I would love a
list.
list.
It's a good idea.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Will you give us an update as you get closer to 2027?
Absolutely. I'll come back. Yeah, I'll come back. Thank you.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, next up we have the school-based mental health grant. Julie, can you do that? Thank you.
It's recommended that the board approve the acceptance of a U.S. Department of Education school-based mental health grant in the total amount of $860,852.88 to be dispersed over a 4-year period. Marianne University, in partnership with the City Connects model, takes a systemic, cost-effective, multi-year approach to address the out-of-school factors that limit student learning. Abraham Manlove, Marianne University, and Kara Froning, Director of Secondary Education, are available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Jen. Any questions?
Can you help me understand what the City Connects model is?
Abe Manlove from Marian University, I can address that. So the City Connects model puts a individual, what we call a site coordinator, in the building that then works as kind of the hub for all student support that's going in. So working with counselors, academic interventionists, social workers, deans, addressing all of the things that are happening inside of the building, and then working with community partners and agencies, churches, things like that outside of the building to better address the root cause of what might be the observable issue happening in the classroom, whether that's poor academic performance or behavior concerns.
And so we're going to be hiring an individual or individuals for our schools?
Yes.
At the height 4?
At 4 middle schools, yes.
At the 4 middle schools?
Mm-hmm. Kikianga, Portage, Lakeside, and Miami.
How are these chosen?
I will address.
So one of the qualifiers for City Connects is the size of the school so that they can accommodate all the needs. So all of those schools fall within the range or close to the range. In addition, those schools are TSI schools with the Department of Education. So we would like to provide a little bit more support for our students and our families because it is an all-encompassing support, not only for the student, but for the family.
So it's one person for each school?
Yes.
So
Yes.
one person will coordinate anywhere from 600 to 800 kids and families?
Smaller numbers at the schools that we've chosen, but yes.
What, isn't Miami like 700 or something, or?
It depends on whether we include the applied skills students as part of that program, if it's all students, all programs, so
So
we are not at
This isn't
700.
going to be for all schools, or this isn't going to be for all students?
Yeah, it is a program for all students, but in some schools, through your program, if I'm correct, there are select students within a school, but right now we've identified all students. Those are our student populations of most need right now. That will hopefully, we've been looking for ways in middle school for years, and I can speak for that perspective, to create these individualized plans for large groups of students, because we, even with our additional therapists, are not able to meet the needs of all of our students at the level we want to meet those needs.
Sure, there's definitely the need, I'm not disputing that. And we're going to get 4 people. What kind of background do these folks need to have?
I'll let him answer that. We do have the positions posted, I will say that, for four people, and we're actively collaborating with our well-being department because there are therapists who have applied for other positions in the district who might qualify for this position too.
Noah, when we first looked at this, we had 3 elementary schools that we were going to consider, but given some of the things that are already happening in those schools, and the fact that our scores, as we looked at some of our elementary schools, were sorely needing some support, we moved this support to middle school. The numbers don't align as perfectly as they would have potentially in an elementary school, but having someone on site who coordinates these services for students, identifying the students with the greatest need, and making sure we can touch as many students as possible. The optimum number is 1 person to 400. But we know that the schools that we've identified are in great need of this as we try to move the needle at middle school as well.
I think when we work with schools that go over that 400 threshold, it's moving this individual from doing less one-on-one direct service and more networking and bringing in a partner that can address more like tier 1 universal type services. And that way they're able to get to more kids more efficiently.
So what's Marion's role?
So we help coordinate the implementation of it in a partnership with Boston College, the creators of this program. And so me as the program manager working with this area, I would come up and do coaching with these individuals, help them problem solve, working closely with the principals to make sure that the person's being utilized to their full potential, working then with our partners at Boston College to bring back any new kind of research, innovation type ideas that they've seen work in the other schools that this is happening in, New York area, the Massachusetts area. We have a cadre of schools in Ohio and in Minnesota as well. And so all of us as coaches get together on a monthly basis as well to find out what's working, how is the landscape changing, and what can we bring in.
So we're the first in Indiana to do this?
Say again?
We're the first in Indiana to do this?
No, so this has been going on in the Indy area. We have about 25 schools around the Indianapolis metro area. We have about 12 schools that we've been working with in the Gary area over the past 3 years. Muncie has a group of 5 to 6 schools now, and so does South Bend. It's kind of all been a part of the growth from what do we do to address learning loss post-COVID.
And you guys at Marion are working with all those different
Yeah.
school districts?
I don't think
What
we
have you
answered the
learned
question.
from-
You asked about the qualifications too.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
answered that.
So they come in with a LSW, licensed school counselor, those kinds of backgrounds. So kind of have both the mental health and the case management abilities to make this work effectively.
So on average, then it's about $215,000 a year? It's
Uh,
a 4-year program?
Something like that, yes.
How much does Marion get out of that then?
I'm not sure what I could ask our director and have that forwarded on.
Well, then if we take 4 people, I mean, that's about 50 grand a year. That seems a little low to hire. Is the district going to have to supplement some of this, the cost of these people?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's over the course of in the MOU. I don't know if you got a copy of that, Noah,
I
but
don't think we got a copy of the
we
MOU.
can give you a copy of that. Oh, it spells out over the course of the relationship with this, that how much each salary, how much we're contributing over the course of that time. So we can get you a copy of that.
I mean, we certainly have the need. I'm not arguing the
No,
need
yes, we
at
do.
all. Just trying to understand.
Can you tell us a little bit about the outcomes that you're getting from the schools that you've been working with for quite some time now?
Sure. So I would say like over time, like we're in this year of implementation, it is kind of playing the long game. Not the silver bullet kind of fix, but what happens first is that as we start bringing in more partners and kids, the teachers start to feel the burden shift from, I don't have to think about where I'm going to get a student who needs shoes, or I don't have to worry about providing snacks out of my own budget, trying to address a kid that has some food insecurity issues, or we've had more students in the classroom get partnered with secure housing and having that stability be brought in. First thing that happens is just kind of like the overall temperature of the classroom and the building starts to go down. More kids have what they need, they're better able to sit and listen and participate without the disruptions and the challenges. After 2 to 3 years, we start seeing attendance improve. We did a quick kind of study of schools that we've been working with and just the first scores coming back from iLearn over the last couple of years, and saw some positive shifts in that regard just after the first couple of years of working in those schools. Put that in action for 5, 6, 7 years, or the 20 years that this program's been in existence in the Boston area, and we start to see improved state assessment scores. We start to see better graduation rates and higher numbers of kids going on to some kind of post-high school study.
So my question is, Kara, probably more so. Kara, thank you. So we're bringing these people into our school to be the first line of defense. And I know that, I'm sorry, I missed your name. Abraham mentioned a lot of the services that we're connecting with. And I know that over in FACE, that's a lot of what we do over there. So what is the main goal of this? It's just to get this person in our building, to be able to get them into the direct line to what those services are needed and the direct people in the base building, because don't we employ a whole bunch of those people that's what they're doing to start with?
Yes, and it could be both. It could be both. And there may be untapped resources that even our FACE department is unaware of that are new to the community that we can offer our families. I think from the building perspective, counselors, assistant principals are constantly, even with the help of FACE, problem solving, trying to find ways to support families. I even saw Mr. Corona at Wayne this last week, working just desperately to find these resources. So this will give us a point person in our building, where then our therapists, our other therapists, we're lucky enough now to have more staff than we've had before. Our therapists, our counselors can focus on therapy, college and career readiness, all of those other pieces.
Thank you.
So there's a grant. How do we arrive at $860,000? I mean, was that all that was awarded to us, or is that all we applied for, or?
That I would have to defer. I can get back with our director who's done more of the grant writing to see how that exact figure was coming in. I think that was based on the number of schools that we thought that we could work with to get started up here. It's a more challenging program to launch like as a district-wide initiative, so it's kind of like, let's get it right with a smaller number, and then it can expand from there if it's working.
So you guys wrote the district on our behalf, the Marion?
So that agreement, and Dr. Daniel, feel free to chime in with your work with Mr. Baining on that, but I think it came from that partnership and then looked at how do we want to move in from an implementations perspective.
Yeah, so you sort of see this as a pilot. And again, how much, the question is, don't leave anything in the community on the table. Provide as many resources and all resources we can possibly find. And so Representative Baining, knowing that this was available, came to us and said, hey, this is an opportunity. See if you're interested. And so that's when we went to, hey, what has Boston College been doing in this area? What are the outcomes? They do have very favorable outcomes. And I think Dr. Robbins explained why we've chosen middle school. Middle schools, that those are areas of high need for us. So again, not just academic needs, but the whole, the entire student, the whole of the student's needs. So again, looking forward to this, and it does draw down like 175, 50, 25 or something like that as far as MOU. So that's why you're seeing the number that you're seeing. But again, for 4 schools, we think this is a good start. We'll evaluate in a few years to see what the outcomes, and I'm confident we're going to see some positive growth in those buildings.
You mentioned the 400 to 1 is your ideal. I think we have very few schools that meet that. So my question ultimately is, the ones that you're working with now, do they have a greater than 400 to 1 ratio?
We have some on both sides. So we, at our really, really large middle schools and some in the Indy area, we actually have like a site coordinator per grade level because it's a 1,200 plus person school. One of the things that's changed in the landscape of education from an economics standpoint is that school size has gotten bigger, just because that it becomes the most efficient way to run the building from a business sense. And so we've seen the model adapt to where the coordinator is doing less one-on-one type of work or fewer classroom lessons, small groups, and they're really doing more of that mass case management coordination type of work, so that the other support staff in the building can take on the direct service.
And you kind of pre-answered my next question was, how many other middle schools are you in, or have you done it, or have you done it in our middle schools? You seem to imply that you have.
Yeah, so we have middle school in Muncie, South Bend. We are moving into the Gary middle schools this year. A number of K-8 buildings, both charter and non-public in that sense. And so we've definitely been working with that age group of students over the years.
Thank you.
Is your program prepared to handle students who may speak English but would prefer to be communicated in Spanish?
That is one of the goals with hiring. It is challenging to find someone who carries both the credentials and the bilingual skills, but those unicorns do exist. We just have to search really, really hard for them. One of the things that in buildings where, you know, that would be the desired trait of a coordinator is having those bilingual skills, then one of the first things that they do is start combing the area for community partners and other representatives that they can bring in that can provide the supports in the home language.
I think our district is what, now 20% Latino, around that number.
And so you said we're going to have to fund some of this from our own operations funds?
It kind of stair steps down over the years, yes.
And we have this in the budget then to do this?
We do.
Will we be able to use some of our security referendum dollars for this because it goes toward mental health, or not sure, or what?
I haven't looked into that, but I can before we write it into the operations fund.
Thank you. I'll shut up now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next up on the agenda, we have Digital Learning Coach Mini Grant. Jen, can you? Yeah. No, okay. Ann,
It is recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the 2024 Indiana Department of Education Digital Learning Coach Mini Grant in the amount of $9,831.28. The funding for this grant will be used to provide funding for coordinators to attend professional learning conferences that promote best practice in blended learning and instruction. Funding will allow them to attend the Indiana Connected Educators Conference as well as the Hoosier Educational Computer Coordinators Conference. And Shannon Quigley, Manager of Learning Technology, will be available to answer your questions.
Thanks, Ann. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move approved.
Second.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Shannon?
Is this just a one-year grant, and then how many people will be able to attend with that?
This is a one-year grant. We have applied in previous years and also received it. This year, since we were doing in-state conferences, we were able to add more people to be able to attend. So for the Indiana Connected Educator Conference, we actually have 15 people allowable to attend, so we can bring some building instructional coaches and coordinators as well. And then it will provide funding for 7 people to attend the Hoosier Educator Conference, which is a little bit of a longer 3-day conference as opposed to 1 day.
And these are better than Jack's Ignited Conference?
It's never better than that. That would be the best
That's
one in the state.
Lollapalooza of
Yeah.
tech nerds, right?
Yeah.
Education.
How many people did you say can attend the Hoosier Conference?
7, we have enough funding for 7 folks to
Okay.
attend, yep.
Thank you.
And 15 for the 1 day, is that correct?
Yep, 15 for the one.
And how do you select the people that go?
Well, some will be coordinators who are, using blended learning within the curriculum and instruction, so that they can be able to then help facilitate training for coaches or teachers. But then we're also going to select some coaches who are more of our blended learning experts that will benefit from having some expanded training on different resources or best practices in instruction.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thanks, Shannon. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, do the next one. Next up is the Digital Learning Grant. It is recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the 2024 Indiana Department of Education Digital Learning Grant in the amount of $50,000. The funding from this grant will be used to provide a pilot for School AI for secondary teachers and students. School AI is a teacher and student-facing AI platform that allows teachers to build personalized learning experiences with AI in a targeted skills-based program. Students will have controlled access to the program for support of learning and tutoring, and Shannon is still here to answer our questions. Is there a motion on the floor?
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Jen. Any questions for Shannon?
Where are we going to implement this at what high schools? How many kids do you think you can touch and teachers?
So this pilot was actually, we're able to get all secondary students, so all middle and high school students will have, and teachers will have access to the platform.
Is it just buying a platform like Copilot or something? Or is it...
It is a school-based, but it's based on generative AI, so all students and teachers will have access to it to create materials, create lessons, provide tools and resources for themselves to better improve their teaching or save time of resources. But it also has a student-facing side so that students will be able to access it with a controlled release of their teacher. So students can't just go in as in a Copilot or ChatGPT and access whenever they would like. It really is controlled by the teacher, so they can set parameters around what the AI can respond to. They can create kind of a safe space for tutoring. So if I'm asking them to directly practice a skill, I can provide what restrictions I want, so how far the AI can support them, only provide feedback. It can respond in real time based on students' responses.
And this will be open to every secondary teacher and every secondary student?
Yes, every single one.
Is there going to be professional learning provided for teachers for the school year?
Yeah, so we will launch professional learning at Ignited. So we'll have someone from School AI on site for 4 sessions. And then we will also be putting resources out on HCMU for teachers to access on their own time, but then as the school year goes on, we have some ongoing professional learning we'll provide around the tool.
So this is a software called School AI?
It's called School AI, and we specifically chose this tool. There was 5 identified by the state that you could kind of choose that met all the state requirements, and this one we really liked because it did allow teachers to have control over the resource rather than students having free access, so that we can really target what we want students to have access to and how they're using the AI to support their learning.
So as you're a major of learning and technology, what is your thoughts or opinions on AI?
I think AI is a valuable tool just like every other resource that we have out there. I think if students have access to it without us showing them proper ways to use and implement and enhance their learning, they might not have as much opportunity when they leave us to know how to utilize those tools for their ongoing careers. It's going to be something that's part of their lives and work moving forward, so I think it has a lot of power if we can use it correctly to help further their education and provide them that experience that they'll need moving forward.
Will this be able to help teachers detect copying and pasting from AI for reports or papers? Or
Really what the research has found is it's very hard to detect AI because even things like no red ink or turn it in cannot correctly identify AI as that something has been created that way. There are things teachers can do and little tips and tricks to help them identify it, but this program won't necessarily do that. But what is nice about it is that whenever a student enters something in School AI, teachers get a log of all of the things that they've put in. So if they're trying to specifically target something and copy paste, that teacher could go back to the chat log and find what a student wrote to do that moving forward.
Apple today announced Apple Intelligence, a voice assistant empowered with enough personal user information to meaningfully help complete an array of tasks. Watch out.
How long will the pilot start this fall? Or will it be later?
Yeah, we will have access July 1st, so it'll be a full year from there. It's important.
So we're getting this from the state of Indiana?
Yes.
And you work for us, and I assume you see other people like you throughout the state district. What's the state saying about this kind of, as far as AI and education, out of curiosity?
Yeah, they have put out AI guidance as well that kind of mirrors the things that we are talking about here that will allow for students to have that guided release of AI usage as well as preparing them as well. They actually put this grant out about a year ago, and so we did not apply for it at that time specifically for AI, but we were able to then connect with some of the other districts around us, Columbia City, Steuben County, who got different programs, so we were able to get feedback of, hey, how's it going? What did you like about that program? What were some of the hurdles that you had with your staff or students? And that helped us to evaluate which tool we wanted to use moving forward. The state did release some preliminary results I think just on Friday, around what they found. They found, I think it said 53% of teachers who were utilizing it had positive experiences, and most of the barriers that they found were actually just the program itself, technology issues. That was the biggest barrier they had. So that was kind of, they will release the full report in the fall.
So is that kind of what we're going to do internally then as well? I mean, find out how many, if it's going to be available to all, right?
Right.
All middle school, all high school?
All middle and high school, and we do have some forms the teachers will be able to provide feedback on how they're utilizing it, what their response is, how they feel like it's being used, not only for themselves, but how their students are accessing it, and if they find it to be a beneficial tool. So after the pilot has gone on, we will evaluate that to see if it's a tool we want to continue moving forward with.
I appreciate the fact that you didn't jump on board right away and you were able to question other school districts to see which ones they were using. So thank you for being diligent about doing your own pilot before the pilot.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Shannon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Noah, you want to do the CMC?
Sure. It's recommended the board approve the construction manager as a contractor CMC for Wayne High School kitchen and cafeteria to the Hagerman Group, along with contract amendment of 2 with CME Corporation for the renovation of Miami Middle School, previously approved on December 11, 2023. Contract procurement method for these projects is the construction manager as a contract constructor CMC for publicly funded projects as allowable per IC 5-32. Excuse me. The Wayne Kitchen and Cafeteria renovation consists of a new layout and remodel of the kitchen, serving lines, and cafeteria. The recommendation includes a design services contract based on a percentage of construction value as well as fixed fee for contractor pre-construction services. An additional recommendation will be presented at a later date with the establishment of a final guaranteed maximum price for the project. The project will be funded from the Nutrition Services Funds. The project is projected to be completed by September 2025. There's a few various bids there. The Hagerman Construction Group was the lowest bidder. The Miami project consists of architectural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical renovations. This amendment represents early equipment purchases to ensure delivery of long lead time items. An additional recommendation will be presented at a later date with the establishment of final guaranteed maximum price for the project. The project will be funded from the 2020 School Building Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project Bond. The original amount was $156,330 for this, and the amendments to $184,330. And Darren Hess is here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Noah. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Jen. Any questions for Darren?
Was the kitchen and cafeteria not part of the original overall budget for the whole Wayne renovation, or separate because of the separate funding source?
It was added on later, so we're really not doing anything in the kitchen in the current project. With Felipe being a new director, looking at the existing, trying to increase participation, we're actually going more towards, and you'll see this as across the state, more campus, more college feel, as opposed to just 3 serving lines. So, but in the original contract, no, we did not have much work in the kitchen going on.
And then how are lead times getting any better or worse, about the same?
So that's why we're doing this now, so that we'll be ready for the spring when we are starting work.
Do you have renderings of what the new cafeteria will look like?
We have some preliminary ones that we can share with Angie to forward.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Darren. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next up, we have paraprofessional training grant. Steve, can you do that one?
It is recommended the board approve the acceptance of the IDOE paraprofessional grant for the 2024-25 school year in the amount of $20,000. The grant will provide training to our district's paraprofessionals. Topics include autism, student behavior plans, accommodations and modifications, and Nikki Sprunger is here to answer questions about this grant.
Thanks, Steve. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Ann. Any questions for Dr. Sprunger?
How many paraprofessionals will be able to touch with this, Dr. Springer?
I'm sorry, no, I didn't hear you.
How many professionals will we be able to touch or go through this training?
They will all have the opportunity, which is approximately 300.
Have paraprofessionals received this kind of training before?
We were able to have a small portion of this year. We started it January 26th. It ended on May 31st. We had 68 paraprofessionals finish 9 modules, and 37 paraprofessionals finished 18. All of our comments have been very positive, so we're looking forward to having this start in September and having a full school year to work with it.
So is this a training through HCMU, or how do they?
This year, they were all through HCMU. We'd like to do some in-person sessions if that's possible.
Sure.
If that is something they would see, but everything we did this year was all through HCMU.
Okay, Any other questions for Dr. Springer? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
When we have something new, a new training and an opportunity and availability, because we have 300 and we've roughly done less than 100, right? How do we promote that to our paraprofessionals or anybody that is additional training? How do they learn about it? How do we get them excited about it? How do we tell them, understand how beneficial it can be for them? What are we doing in that realm for them to know that?
This year, we sent things out through the cabinet, the weekly, Superintendent's Weekly. We also sent out flyers. We sent also information to the principals, and we want to get in front of it more this year where we actually can give a list to principals, here's opportunities, and here's some of the pairs in your building that would benefit from it. So we learned a lot this year. But again, making that more personal contact. We even had our district teachers go out, and we went out into buildings and talked to paraprofessionals.
So of that, do you see a trend in specific schools or more from one school or other?
No, I think again, we have such a short window. When we really saw people start utilizing this is when school was out.
Okay.
So it's like when they had the time. So again, having some of those longer windows, we even opened up time here over spring break for people who were still in town if they wanted to come in. And we had 2 pairs come to Cryle to work on that.
Great. I just asked that question because we have a tremendous amount of things that we're offering to our employees, and when we have a new one come up, just wondering how they find out about that. So thank you.
Well, the 20,000, is that paying for the programming, or is that paid for their salary or pay to come do the training?
It's only, we'll pay the paraprofessional for the actual training. So we have a stipend that we give paraprofessionals for anything after contracted hours, and that's what it pays for.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thanks, Dr. Springer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Julie, you want to do Chromebooks?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's recommended that the board approve the purchase of Lenovo Chromebooks from Trafera of St. Paul, Minnesota for $263,835. The purchase of 615 Lenovo 300E G4 Chromebooks will allow us to expand our use of Chromebooks at Toll's Intermediate and expand our middle school pilot at Toll's New Tech. These Chromebooks will also come with 4 years of accidental damage protection. Fort Wayne Community Schools was able to secure pricing from Trafera that is 30% below the Omnia Partners contract price. Indiana law does not require public bidding for purchases made at or below approved cooperative purchasing agencies and/or GSA pricing. Funding will come from the Common School Fund loan and the 2024 Technology Go Bond. Jack Bird, Chief Systems Officer, is available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Jen. Any questions for Jack?
So Jack, this one has 4 years of accidental protection, which some of our devices in the past have not. Do we no longer have to pass that on to the parent looking for protection, or how does that work?
Correct. When we've started purchasing Chromebooks from Trafera, they were all able to offer us the accidental protection at no real additional cost to us. So we're able to purchase these devices and not have to have parents take out insurance.
That's great.
Has that been effective? I mean, has there been accidents and we file a claim and do they
Yes.
pay, or is there a lot
Yeah,
of hoops to jump through and fight, or?
No, Trafera has been a very good company to work with.
So how is this expanding our use of Chromebooks? So students at middle school like Toll's was not already one-to-one, or?
No, they're all one-to-one, but we were at one point all a Windows environment. We converted our elementary buildings to Chromebooks over the past couple of years. Now we want to see if we can do that with our middle schools.
Okay.
So we're starting the pilot right with this purchase.
So this will be our first Chromebooks in the middle school?
Correct.
And what is the longevity of these computers nowadays?
I'm sorry?
How long, like a new
Life cycle.
Chromebook, what's the lifespan of the Chromebooks?
Our replacement cycle right now is 4 years.
And moving forward, will the accidental damage protection be something that we seek so that we're not burdening parents to purchase additional insurance?
Yeah, if we can, and this is another reason why we're moving to Chromebooks, we're able to purchase them at a lower cost than our Windows devices. And so as long as our budget allows, we will be passing that, we will be purchasing that coverage for our devices.
Great. Any other questions about Chromebooks? Okay, thanks, Jack. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm sorry, one more question. I was looking up. Chromebook means Google platforms, right, versus Microsoft, or?
No, it's not Microsoft, it is Google.
Okay, so we're getting the Google kind of as an operating system versus a Microsoft operating system.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's it, thank you.
Okay. The Early Learning Center? Ann?
It is recommended that the board approve a memorandum of understanding with East Allen County Schools for the creation and operation of an early learning center. The 4 key intended outcomes for the project are to keep parenting high school students in school and helping them graduate with a plan and a purpose, provide the very best of care and education to over 115 children in lower income neighborhoods, boost economic development by creating an additional pool of educated, certified, high-quality early learning workers up to 60 students annually, and strengthen a neighborhood in transition by creating a community anchor that provides a sense of place, an aura of vitality, and a focal point of beauty for generations to come. And Mitch Shepard, Director of Philanthropy, will be available to answer your questions.
Thanks, Ann. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve. Second.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Noah. Any questions for Mitch?
Mitch, can you tell me a little bit more about the paragraph or the sentence in there about employing more teachers or getting them qualified, or, I'm sorry, my computer didn't pull up the.
Absolutely. So part of the program will be working with our CTE students who are becoming certified to become those early learning professionals, those teachers. Northeast Indiana, not unlike the rest of the country, is incredibly burdened by a lack of instructors to provide these programs. We currently graduate 15 students who are going out into the universe every year to become those teachers. This program creates a practicum and a support system that will allow us to expand to 60 students a year graduating at full strength.
Thanks.
Has this MOU been drafted?
I'm sorry?
Has this MOU been drafted?
It has been drafted. It has been signed by East. And this is a partnership between the 2 school districts. There's not a financial component. It is a matter of serving a very common population of students who do move back and forth across the 2 districts.
And we will only service between the 2 districts high school students who are parents.
Well, because of the Providers a Head Start program, and that's how the funding for the operating is coming in, excuse me. Starting out, we anticipate there'll be student parents and community parents, and over time you're going to see this sort of a thing happen as the student parents become more familiar with the program and access it more often. Head Start is required to have a certain waiting list, so they will accept applicants from the community that are of low income until our students are registered. But because of the way the students are evaluated for admission, the students will always be first in.
Was there a split between number of East Allen kids versus our kids in the MOU?
It's not lined out in the MOU because those students are somewhat invisible. To actually know their numbers, what we did is we worked with WIC. Mary Hess, who heads up our Health and Wellness Division, met with folks at WIC and said, inside our geographic footprint, how many parents do you have that are under the age of 18? And that was how we came to determine what we think our population is, although please understand not everyone applies for WIC. And our population is around 130. East is guessing theirs to be around 35. But we won't really know until the program hits. We could be in a situation where we hope to expand soon. One never knows.
But there's no hard and fast, no 80-20,
No.
60-40?
No. This is a partnership where we have agreed to work it out based on the number of students who come forward. And both school systems will be providing a really extensive professional learning environment so that not just classroom teachers, but literally anyone who comes in contact with a student will be prepared to refer them to this facility.
We're going to provide transportation for these kids and new parents?
Right now, Fort Wayne Community intends to bus their students from the Early Learning Center to their home high school, where they'll have the best chance at success at graduation. We're working with some not-for-profits to try to determine a way to get the littles to the center if the parents are unable to do that, but that would not be through our transportation program.
So you've said that we're in dire shortage of early childhood workers. They're not just going to appear overnight. Our students, we have 15 now and we can allow up to 60. How are we going to grow that at the same time that we're taking in more, or whatever the number is? How are we going to find these workers to support whatever number it is that we need them for?
I am particularly proud of that program, although it's not an area where I work directly. We have a waiting list. We actually have students who are waiting to get into the program. And with the recent changes in the state legislature in the early learning bill, it now allows students at the age of 18 who are certified to work in a 0 to 3 room where they couldn't before. We had students who really wanted that training and wanted to go into that profession, and now they can.
Great.
How long is our waiting list?
I'm sorry, I don't know, but I can email that to you tomorrow.
Will East Allen kids be able to take advantage of that as well? Because that's through Rientis, right?
Yes, it is. You mean the CTE program?
Mm-hmm.
To the best of my knowledge, and again, my expertise is not in CTE, and I'm going to look at Dr. Daniel a little bit on this one, but I believe that we would accept East Allen students into the program for that particular course of study.
So again, if openings are available, absolutely. So you're going to see more and more of, and we've just had a conversation with East Allen on this topic, how do we share students across platforms, i.e. they offer pharmaceutical, tech, we do not offer that. So if there are students interested, how do we share those students? So I think that's part of the Grow Allen plan. Again, it's the beginning, but we're also seeing other districts, particularly non-pubs, starting to set up their own CTE programming. So we're also seeing that. So it's developing. We don't have, this is new, this is unique. But at the same time, one district having the CTE program, that is definitely something that's evolving to include other districts, i.e. we can't offer everything. But maybe as a county, we can offer many more things. So I think another major topic here as well, we also have to have these pathways within our high school so students know these availability, these options, because we also have to fill those slots. So right now we have 15 students in this program, but we haven't talked anything about 0 to 3-year-olds. And this program starts to talk about 0 to 3-year-olds and the training for our students to have jobs, because a law just passed that allows 18-year-olds. But we want 18-year-olds that have been trained in specifically providing early learning care. Then hopefully maybe they also then move into well, I now want to be an educator, so I may want to be a pre-K teacher, I want to be a kindergarten teacher, so an elementary or what have you. So again, it's providing the stepping stones for our kids, but also it's including now, how do you look beyond the district? And my philosophy, I don't think in Indiana there are districts anymore. They're educational programs. Riley Johnson's a prime example.
Any other
Your
questions?
program's outside it's outside now Fort Wayne Community Schools.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that brings us to a temporary interfund loan. It is recommended that the board approve all interfund loans necessary to eliminate deficits in certain funds of the corporation as of June 30, 2024. Cash deficits in funds of the corporation are not allowed at the end of a fiscal year. Deficits in property tax supported funds could occur if the distribution of property taxes from Allen County is short of expectations. Normal timing differences between revenue and expenditures could cause temporary deficits. State statute allows temporary transfers between funds if certain requirements are met. The treasurer will make all necessary transfers and report the loans to the board. Rosie Shipman, Chief Financial Officer, is available to answer any questions. Is there a motion on the floor?
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Noah. Any questions for Rosie? No? Okay. Thanks, Rosie. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Noah, would you like to do?
Sure, it's recommend the board approve a transfer of up to $10 million from the education fund to the operations fund. This represents 4.2 of the budget education fund revenue. In 2019, Indiana school districts deposit state tuition support to the education fund and property taxes to the operations fund. Transfers from education fund to the operations funds are necessary to properly fund expenditures necessary to the operations of the school district. Half will be transferred by June 30th and the balance needed by December 31st. Again, Rosie Shipman's here to answer questions.
Thanks, Noah. Is there a motion on the floor?
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Noah. Any questions for Rosie on this one?
Is this in line with the dollar amount we've done in the past?
It's actually, it'll probably be about $1 million short. Last year, we did 6 million and we didn't transfer any other funds. This year, we're looking at 5 and I may not transfer in this one.
And then isn't there a limit on how much we can transfer?
Yes, there is.
We're well below that, right?
Yes.
Is there a limit, or is there just a dunce cap you have to wear if
No.
you go above a certain percentage?
It's 15%.
15%? Okay.
Plus a dunce cap on a list, isn't it? Plus a dunce cap on a list, right?
Any other questions? Okay.
Do we need to read this resolution?
No. Oh, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Right. Next up, resolution authorizing the insurance of refunding bonds. It is recommended that the board approve a resolution that authorizes the future refunding of certain bonds if interest savings will be at least 2%. The Fort Wayne Community Schools Building Corporation issued bonds in 2015 and 2016 related to the 2012 referendum. Outstanding payments of these bonds are eligible for refunding or refinancing. The resolution allows for all or portion of the outstanding bonds to be refunded. The Fort Wayne Community Schools Building Corporation took appropriate action prior to this meeting that allows for refunding bonds upon board approval. We need a motion and all that.
Second.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next up, possible 24-25 district-wide equipment and facility improvement project financing. The board will conduct a public hearing regarding the financing of a possible 24-25 district-wide equipment and facility improvement project with general obligation bonds and/or building corporation property tax first mortgage bonds. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Journal-Gazette on May 31st, 2024. The maximum principal amount of bonds to be issued to finance the project will be no more than $55,650,000. The project will include, but not limited to, all or any portion of certain upgrades, updates, improvements, and renovations throughout the Fort Wayne Community Schools District, including improvements to all or any portion of certain outdoor physical education, extracurricular, co-curricular facilities, including all or any portion of the Snider and Northside athletic facilities and the Helen P. Brown Natatorium at Southside High School, renovations of the Greil Administration Center and the Wendy Y. Robinson Family and Community Engagement Center, including but not limited to restrooms, conference areas, and offices, the acquisition and installation of a new district-wide time clock system, the replacement and/or installation of new heating and air condition systems and related equipment, certain projects at Amp Lab at Electric Works, acquisition of equipment to be used in FWCS co-curricular and/or extracurricular activities, and miscellaneous facility improvement and/or equipping projects at one or more facilities operated by FWCS. Rosie Shipman, CFO, will make a presentation regarding the project. Upon conclusion of the presentation, all interested parties are entitled and encouraged to present their testimony and ask questions regarding the project or bonds. Looks like Rosie's here, Darren is here, Riley Johnson, Jeff, is it Quackenbush, Barnes and Thornburg, and Jem Elizondo from Stifel Public Finance will be available to answer any questions. There's a lot of people. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to comment? Please come to the microphone. We ask speakers to limit their remarks to 1 3-minute session.
Do we have a presentation first?
It says there's no need to ask for a motion. So, okay. As there are no speakers who wishes to speak, yeah, okay. Hi, Rosie.
Good evening.
Sorry.
Good evening, President Norman, board members, Dr. Daniel, and our guest. With me tonight, I have back in the corner, Riley Johnson from Amp Lab, Darren Hess, the Director of Facilities, and Jim Elizondo is standing behind me because he gets to present a little bit. We're going to give him a little piece of the pie. Nice. So we are here tonight to present to you the 24-25 general obligation bond and the 24-25 district-wide equipment and facility improvement project. Well, maybe we're going to work. It is. It's on. Malfunction.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
When it works.
When it works.
Oh, the other thing we can do is, do you want to just forward me?
Yeah, thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren. See why he's a great team member? Perfect, thank you. Okay, here you see our existing debt. If you look at 24, you're going to see that the lime green represents what we have in just debt, and then the orange is referendum debt. If you go on to 25, you'll notice that the green slims down a little bit because we pay some off. The orange gets a little smaller because we pay some off. And then you see the gray. The gray is going to be a GO bond where we get a new issue of funds for the 2020 referendum. If you remember, that was the Blackhawk, Scott, Miami, Wayne renovation, as well as the secure vestibules, the roof projects, and also the elevator projects. So this is $25 million that we need to issue so that we can continue the projects and keep Darren moving along on all of that. Next slide. I'm going to start talking now about the 24-25 district-wide equipment and facility improvement plan. We start out with Snider High School. As for a long time, they've needed some type of stadium so that their teams could, varsity track, soccer, and marching band could hold events. So we're going to construct a 4,000-seat stadium with a press box. We're going to work with making additional parking. We will have a rubber running track as well as synthetic turf. We will also be moving the tennis courts from the present Snider High School over to Lane, and that will become the concession and the restroom area for the new stadium. We will move the bleachers from south side to north side and make that additional visitor seating. You can hit it. The next up will be the Wendy Robinson Family and Community Engagement Center. That has an area that's just existing storage that we need to make office space for college and career. Here at Grile, the third floor needs a renovation to HVAC and to the lighting. Right now, if you walk in one office and you don't walk down the hallway first, you sit in the dark in those two offices. We just need to have some work done on that third floor. Also reconfiguring some space and try to get some conference area and replace some equipment that's needed. We also need to renovate the restrooms here in Grile and make them ADA accessible, and then replace all the fixtures and things like that in those restrooms. The Helen P. Brown Natatorium has been needing an HVAC system and a dehumidification system for the pool, so that will be included. Amp Lab at Electric Works, we're going to work around a build out for the programmatic side of manufacturing and capstone by acquiring buildings 21 and 25. The athletic equipment that we're going to include will be the exterior and interior scoreboards at the middle and high schools, as well as miscellaneous athletic equipment that we need, like wrestling pads, hurdles, soccer goals, things like that. And then replacing all uniforms, elementary, middle, and high school. That includes helmets and any type of jerseys or anything like that. One of the things that we need for our schools of success is the virtual desktop infrastructure. That is going to allow us to use the current computers that each student has, but it will allow them through a streamed application or a web browser, to use applications like AutoCAD with the new schools of success. Here's your projected timeline. We're going to start with a hearing tonight. We will have another hearing on the 24th. August 12th will be a approval of the design and the CMC contracts. In September, you're looking at a hearing where you will actually sign the resolutions for these bonds. November 10th, we will start with the bond closing. And in 25, we will probably come back to you with another hearing for the second half. We're only going to go with 30 million probably to start out, and then we'll come back and get the second half of the 25 million for the district equipment. And then this project should run from July of 24 through October of 26. In fall of 26, Snider Stadium should be ready to use. This next slide, Jim is going to, oh, I'm sorry. I have one more slide. So as you can see, 24 stayed the same. This is where, when you look at 25, the lime is our debt, and then the orange is the referendum debt. The gray will be that GO bond, that's the 2020 referendum. And then the turquoise represents the athletic equipment and facility improvement. Now, Jim will take the next slide.
And I brought a larger version that I can read. I'm here to share some state requirements with you that need to be presented tonight, and then will be reviewed again at your next hearing, next board meeting. At that point, you'll also be considering a resolution after that hearing. No resolutions tonight regarding these projects. But the additional information we need to share are some items that will be included ultimately in resolutions, setting maximum parameters, and also identifying some things that our state legislature requires us to have with the bond issue. First is our maximum borrowing of $55,650,000. Next, we do have to lay out your current debt levy and current debt rate, and that's again, as Rosie has suggested, that's the combined rate between your exempt and non-exempt debt. That's at $37 million and change for the levy, and 30.28 cents as the maximum tax rate for that. We also have to estimate those same numbers, including the proposed new debt. And so in that case, we would show that estimated debt service levy would be $38,479,000, and again, not to exceed that 30.28 cents, which for those of you who've been on the board a long time was well established early in this process with your 2012 referendum and carried on since then. We do have to also lay out your maximum annual payments. You'll see, if you remember the prior graph, the next 2 years have larger payments, and then we lower the payments to leave flexibility for future opportunities for the school district. That maximum payment cannot exceed $21 million in any given year. We have to estimate total interest costs. We're using a 6% conservative interest rate. If you're in the markets today on a 20-year borrowing, you'd be in the low 4% range. So again, trying to be very conservative with that number. That estimated interest is $21 million. We have to, or $21 million is the payment. That's $47 million and change in interest. And then we add that to the principal, the maximum principal amount. That gets us a total maximum principal and interest. Again, these will be setting maximum levels for you at the time the board.
That's a total over the whole life of the bond.
Exactly.
So it's not per year.
Right, correct. And that, again, is based on the 6% and maximum of a 20-year repayment. That's $102,708,000. Again, maximum interest rate at that 6%. We're putting a maximum term of 20 years, which is the typical state limit. However, all the numbers we've been running are estimated at a 12-year amortization or repayment to, again, accelerate repayment of debt and, again, leave flexibility for future needs. And then finally, there are two ratios that the state requires, and these are also ratios that the bond market looks at when they're considering buying your bonds. First one is we take a look at your annual debt service divided by your assessed value. That comes out to be 0.349%. Compare that nationally, that's a very low number. So the bond markets look very favorably on that. And again, even though we are continuing to discuss new projects, that number still stays very low on a national basis. And then finally, we have to look at long-term debt, your total outstanding debt, and the outstanding debt of all of your taxing districts that are included. So that's the city of Fort Wayne, fire departments, just everybody that's in your tax bill. We then take that against your assessed value, and that comes out to be about 5.1%. Again, not crazy low, but well in the well below the midpoint. So you're still, again, our bond markets and buyers see no interest or no concern at all at that level. And again, in the state of Indiana, you would still be on the low end of that range. At this time, I turn back over to President Norman. Again, next board meeting, there will actually be a resolution to consider after this information is then reviewed again.
Thank
you.
So before you leave, I have a question. The annual debt service including new bonds over net assessed value of 0.3499%. That is not representative of the 30.28 cents. Is that correct?
That has no relationship directly to that. That we take all of your debt service payments that are here, add the new ones to it, and just simply divide by your assessed value to get a ratio.
So someone could look at this and say, well, you said 30.28, but now you're 34.99. They're not.
They're completely, they're no apples to apples. The top one is a straight tax rate calculation. This other is a finance ratio.
And then, so with that 0.3499 on per $100,000 of home value, does that mean that the taxpayers roughly $349.90 or $3,000 for it?
I have to, so many decimal points.
Yeah, I got my calculator.
Yeah, and I don't have mine. So if we start with the assessed value, we're okay.
Just per 100,000, I was just curious.
Yeah, so if we, well, I don't even have your assessed with me either. 1% of your assessed value, your current AV is what? Ballpark? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't have it on that graph either. Let me send that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
It's a very small number, and it doesn't. Basically, we take your total. Well, here we go. Your total levy of $38 million divided by your net assessed value. So that's the simple calculation. So up above that $38,479,000 is the estimated total payments. Divide that by your net assessed value, which I don't have with me.
But the 0.3499, we could do it opposite.
Yeah. It should be slightly under.
110 million? I don't know. Bottom line is we don't have to raise taxes to do any of this, right?
Correct.
And ultimately, and that's what the top part of this chart shows you, that we are staying within or lower than that debt service tax rate that you've established long ago and have seen recently as a max.
And can you go back one slide
Yes.
there and that?
Adding all of that debt together, it will come out to 0.3026.
And that's assuming no increase in assessed value too. Is that right?
Correct.
So if we have an increase in assessed value, we'll still be below further than that.
Right, correct.
And so the first blue, I can't see the years down at the bottom, so that's the first, you're thinking about doing this in 2 phases?
Yes.
Is that right? So it'd be the first phase and the darker blue is the second phase?
Yes, correct. That'll be the phase in the final money that we'll need for '26. Because we have to split these projects up between the first year and the second year so that Darren has enough time to get everything completed.
And so those represent about 26 million roughly each blue?
Yeah. 26 and 25, I believe it is, the way we did it.
Well, I know we're not making a motion and voting, but I'm excited about this.
I'm kind of
All your hard
excited
work,
myself.
And I know this is something that we've talked about on budgets and Kathy's hard work, your predecessor in the past, to kind of keep us below those rates and stuff and be in the realm of what Steve, and I don't even know if Julie was around then, and Ann, I don't think Ann and Maria were quite yet, but they promised the community we're living up to that, so.
We have great advisors also. Thank you to Jim, Jeff, for all of their help doing this.
We're splitting those into 2, correct?
Yes.
So the athletic facilities first, and then the, whatever.
We'll start with the athletic facility at Snider, because we want that completed by October, or fall of '26, and then we will move into the other phases of, I think, Amp Lab, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, Amp Lab, Gryle Building, Stadium first, and then the other projects second.
Really just cash flow, so
Right.
we can start some of the projects earlier, but we don't have to borrow all the money the first year. Cash flow, we don't need it till the second year, so it's just cash flow. So we'll be doing a mix of all these projects right away.
But the first one, I'm just, I took it.
Are you confused about the gray and the turquoise?
Well, I took in my notes when you were going through earlier that it's 30 million for 24 and 25 for the next year, for 25.
To make a grand total of 55.
Yeah, well, it's not like that up there, so I was just curious. It's 24 is 25 and 25 is 30. Not that it makes a big difference, I was just curious as to.
Those are the way they
Basically, as an example, the Snider project shows an estimated cost of $30 million. However, we won't need $30 million up front. So we've structured the splitting the price project in between. It may not be exactly that pairing as we get closer to selling bonds, but in our current model, we're splitting it this way, knowing that we don't need all the money up front. And as we work with Darren, as we get closer, those numbers are fungible and will move around within the whole.
And you're saying right now we're in the 4% range?
Yeah, well, on the shorter issue, the 12%, we might be shy, just under 4, but somewhere in that 4%, 4.25% range on a 20-year. So still, and that would be the example that's there. That's at 6% over 12 years. To the extent we get lower rates, parts of that graph will lower itself. assessed value changes will also impact that, and we will know by the time we sell bonds what your assessed value is, and that will come into trying to really hone in on that tax rate.
Question for maybe Darren. So is there parking in the area to accommodate the cars needed for 4,000 people plus?
Yes.
Plus students, plus staff, plus?
Yeah, so when we did the feasibility study, we took that was one of the main pressure points. So we'll be using mainly the Snider lot. We're constructing a new lot across the lane, making some improvements along Reed to make it a little pedestrian more friendly. Utilizing Glenwood Park and their large parent pickup lane, bus lane that we made for Snider. So kind of utilizing all 4 of those. Talking with the school, it seems like there's about 3 to 4 games where we're usually going to be pressing that for parking, but the other games we should be well within that.
Have you talked to the neighborhood associations around there?
We have not yet, no.
Okay. Is that something that we're planning to do?
I'm sure we will, yes.
Can you compare the seating number, the 4,000 to Northrop? Say Northrop. What is the capacity at Northrop?
Yeah, Northrop and Wayne are roughly 5,000, so it's a little obviously less than that, but that's the footprint we have to work with.
Okay. So the tennis courts are moving over to the Lane property, is that correct?
Correct, because currently where they're at north of the field, we'll utilize that space for concession and restroom building.
Where are they going to go at Lane?
Essentially across the street between the softball field and the baseball diamond that was removed.
Practice field. What's happening with that
Firehouse.
now, that fire station?
We're still interested in it.
Yeah, okay.
The city chose to keep it, not the fire department, but the city, I believe their bomb squad tactical units using
so
it.
they're,
Yeah, but we're still interested if they're willing to.
they're blowing
let us
stuff
have
up next to our school.
As a reminder, didn't we sell that to them for $1?
Yes, we did.
Back in the day.
The land.
Will there be improvements to, as we're improving the Snider facility and the track and such, will Lane see those improvements as well in their facility?
I'm sure there'll be some use of tennis possibly for PE. I'm not sure if they currently use the Snider ones, but between the 2 schools, if they can, utilize the resources, I'm sure they'll try to find a way. As well with all the high schools, now this is our last turf field. They all have their middle school. They try to have 1 home game at least in each of their feeder middle schools at the high school to play on the turf. So I'm sure Lane and Blackhawk will have that opportunity.
I know the band's excited to host a competition there potentially, and I've been told bands aren't allowed to go anywhere without turf anymore because they get all their uniforms there and stuff. And I know the band parents are excited about this, I've heard. It's a great thing, long overdue.
Any other questions? Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Rosie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Alrighty. We don't need a motion. Okay. All right, since we don't have any members of the community here, I'm going to go ahead and the hearing is now closed. So there's that. And that was our last agenda item because my thing stopped scrolling. Okay, so that leads us to board member comments.
Two comments this evening. One is that I am in the recruiting business this evening, and we need to appoint or make a recommendation to the city to fill a position vacated by Raleigh Booker, who was serving as the board's member to the Redevelopment Commission. It's a non-voting position, but Raleigh was a full participant in all of the discussions, and it's just good to have that position filled. So Jonathan Leist is the person that we would need to indicate to him who that person will be.
Okay.
So the commission meets monthly. We met this afternoon, and the next meeting of the Redevelopment Commission will be the second Monday of July, whatever that date is. So if we could take care of that before then, that would be great. The other thing I just wanted to talk about was to just a big thanks to the staff involved in the organization of our graduation ceremonies. I got to tell you, I attend a lot of graduation ceremonies for this district and other districts and universities, and the level of professionalism demonstrated by our staff at those events is nothing short of amazing. Friday, I was standing on the floor at the Coliseum next to the person who made sure that every student who was about to have his or her picture taken made sure that their tassel was not in their hair, in their mouth. It was where it should be, and that was her job. But it was that level of attention to detail that makes those events what they are. Because I will tell you that not all graduation ceremonies come off like that, but ours did. So hats off to everybody involved in those events. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Julie?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Steve. I was at the Wayne graduation on Saturday, and everything went off on clockwork, like clockwork. And although, you know, it was kind of interesting that Principal John Hauser was still texting students who were on their way and keeping in contact with them so that they knew that they should still, you know, don't give up, keep coming. We'll get you involved when you arrive. But you're right. The staff at Wayne did a tremendous job, and it's always fun to see our graduates and the joy in their faces of accomplishment, and that and the families are, of course, excited, and it really is a great event for everyone. The Indiana School Choice Report came out recently. If you're interested in reading it, it's online. If you do a search for Indiana School Choice Report, you can find that for so this report is for last school year, 23-24. It's no real surprise that because the state increased eligibility, that there was a 32% increase in the number of students getting a voucher. It hit over 70,000 last year. I keep that in mind, at 32%. So the increase in number of students was 32%. The cost jumped 40%. A family of 4, those students in a family of 4 making $222,000 are now eligible for a voucher. That's in a state where the average family income is $67,000. The number of voucher students from families earning more than $200,000 a year jumped over 1,000%. That's not a big surprise. That could have been predicted. Now, but here's the really interesting statistic that jumped out at me. So, non-public or private enrollment last year increased 5%. But voucher students, remember, increased 32%. Now, how could that happen? How could private enrollment only increase 5%, but yet the number of voucher students increased 32%? How could that happen? Well, of course it happens because we are now subsidizing students whose families were already sending them to private school. They were paying the tuition. And in fact, now 2/3 of voucher students never attended public school. My concern is that, you know, how is subsidizing families who can afford private school tuition, how does that help our communities? Is that really good public policy? I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm not eligible for because of my income. You know, I can't take the, isn't there a senior property tax credit you can get, you know, to reduce your property taxes? Well, I can't get that. You know, I just don't, you know, what was sold, what was it, 13 years ago, as a program that would send low-income children in failing schools has now really become a middle class and upper middle class entitlement. And, you know, there's a lot of counties in this, we talked about this earlier today, there are a lot of counties in this state, a lot of rural areas where they have absolutely no private schools. And I just have to wonder how those taxpayers feel about having their taxpayer dollars go and be spent on families of 4 earning $222,000 a year. Something to think about.
So Julie, a family of 4 with $222,000 of income can take a voucher and go to a private school.
Full voucher.
They can also come to a public school like us, right? So could the argument be made, well, they're subsidizing already by a public school, but yet, are the private schools accountable to their citizenry?
They're not accountable to the state.
Are the private schools accountable to where those monies are spent and how those are allocated? Mm-hmm. Do the private schools dictate on who they accept and don't accept? And 1/3 of our counties have no private schools, to your point.
Right.
A third.
Yeah, a third, yeah.
So I'm sensing there's a difference between us and them.
That's it.
That's it. To start with, some of Julie's information for anybody out there watching. As a parent who have children in public schools, or a grandparent, or any community member, understand, get informed, and figure out how the voucher works, and what it's doing and what it's not doing for your community. As I've always said, and we always say, strong schools equal strong communities. There are 30,000 kids in Fort Wayne Community Schools, roughly, just under that go to public schools. And in the state of Indiana, the statistic is still right around 90%. So If you are looking to have a strong community and economic growth and everything else that goes with it, including our rural communities where there are not private schools to take your voucher and go to, then I would start to understand how how these vouchers are working. And I encourage you to ask more questions. On a lighter note, I did too attend our graduations this past weekend, Southside at the early morning hour of 10:30. They were bright-eyed and ready to go. And I also was able to attend the Virtual Academy's graduation, which is very unique, a smaller number of students, but very excited to see the diversity of those students and the reasons why they're in Virtual Academy. Multiple different reasons as I spoke to the parents of why they ended up in our Virtual Academy, but very grateful that we offer that to them. Instead of dropping out of school, switching to some Virtual Academy that has, who knows what their credentials are, and staying in school and actually becoming a graduate. So I'm very proud of our Virtual Academy and our Virtual Academy students. We had an honor student who finished up her academic honors diploma through virtual school, so it can be done. And just very proud of those students who made it to the end and those families who supported them and kept them in school. That's it.
Well, first, I just wanted to, again, congratulate Steve Corona. He was awarded the Public Service Award through Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. last week. So congratulations on that. I did not get to attend any of the graduations this year. However, I was invited to go to Lakeside's graduation, their first annual graduation for 8th graders, going on to hopefully Northside. So that was a neat opportunity to see all the kids all excited and all gathered together in their gym for that special occasion, with the 7th graders looking on in the anticipation of doing that the following year. And then as many of you know, I'm a lunch buddy and also a tutor for Study Connection, and I really support those programs and encourage others to get involved. But lunch buddy this year, Brooke Ringenberg, the person who heads up the program, coordinated a zoo trip for the mentor and mentees to go on. So that was really nice. I appreciated her doing that because we don't get to see each other over the summer. So that was one opportunity to see our buddy. And then she's going to have a game night, I believe, for all the families of the lunch buddy, so they can meet the mentors. So exciting stuff happening this summer in our programs.
Thanks, Sam.
I'll reiterate what a lot of you said. It was a great graduation, Steve. I hadn't thought about that, but you were right. They run that thing like clockwork, and I think get through almost 500 kids in an hour is pretty impressive. As Ian said, congratulations to you and also our friend at Greater Fort Wayne, Honor Bonds, for being awarded Sagamore of the Wabash, and congratulations to GFW. It's their 10-year anniversary. It's a strong and important organization here in Fort Wayne. The only thing I'll add about the graduation slice piece is again, I've been speaking for a lot of us here regularly, it seems like last time, but I do think, again, I feel confident in saying that is the best part of our job, in my opinion. When we get there and we see those kids go through and they're nervous or they're excited or they're looking down and don't even want to be there, it's just really neat to shake their hand and tell them congratulations, and it's even more special when you know some of those kids or you know some of those families and you know some of them, their story of what they've gone through and what they've done to get to that point. Hopefully it's a gateway into their future that's bright and not the pinnacle of their life. Some of it may be, unfortunately, but it's just a lot of fun to be there and be with those kids and be there, part of their celebration. Thank you.
Dr. Daniel.
So I believe we have an open house coming up. There's the invitation, I think. No, it's different? Okay. So when is that? Is that Wednesday?
Wednesday, 4 to 7.
So Wednesday, 4 to 7 for Levon Scott. So again, a chance for us to showcase truly a state-of-the-art educational program for our students in Southeast Fort Wayne. Also, you have Bridge of Grace that's also having an open house simultaneously. So again, that private-public partnership coming together, pretty pleased with that. Also, I want to say thank you to all of our teachers, our staff, our principals. I think this has been an exceptional year. We've seen phenomenal things happening. So thank you for all of what you do, which also leads to we always need bus drivers. And we're going to keep on pushing this thing. And we've been thinking, how do we, and Jennifer and I have had quite a few conversations, how do we incorporate or allow a teacher, maybe they're with a team of 4, and they share a bus route with students who are coming to their school. So I'll just use Jefferson as an example. You're a teacher at Jefferson, maybe you're administrative assistant, maybe you're instructional assistant, I don't care, but there's a team that comes together and you share that route. I will tell you it would be more money than what I received when I coached. So if you did that, it would be something, and I know part of being a teacher, we don't, our salaries aren't what we'd like for them to be. So therefore, it's a way, and I've just pushed that out again as a possibility. And we're going to talk with Tim Captain about this and move this. How do we train these folks this summer? So I'm going to put that out there if you're interested. We're going to start doing some promotional things. I'll probably do a video and send that or release that once a week. So Mary Kay, once a week. Similar to Bob Rohrman, we've got a deal for you. Okay, but just keep on doing it and doing it and doing it. But again, thank all of you. It's been, again, an amazing year. And of course, now we're planning for what happens next fall. I think we're up to 45 non-Fort Wayne Community School students who are interested in AMP Lab. And I had an opportunity to have some friends that I was able to show off AMP Lab yesterday. They haven't been in Fort Wayne really for about 20 years, and they are amazed at what's happening in Fort Wayne. The growth, but also Fort Wayne Community Schools educational programs. Go to AMP Lab, go to Jim Kelly Career Pathway Center, go to what's happening with Schools of Success and what students are involved with, the partnering that's happening with JA3DE. It's transformational, but it doesn't happen unless people have some faith. And again, that comes from this board right here. So again, great amount of appreciation and gratitude. Thank you.
All right. I wasn't able to attend graduations. It's my mom's 60th birthday this year, so we were having a celebration of 60th birthdays. Happy birthday again, Mom. But I did miss graduation because, as Noah mentioned, it is my favorite event of the year, and I know that after COVID, we were all a little like shaking hands with 10 people at the end. What do we do with that? But it is just always fun to wish them congratulations and to share in that big clap at the end when the last person goes through and there's just energy throughout the whole building. It's always a nice moment. We do have a vacancy, and we had 4 applicants for that, and so we'll host interviews Tuesday and Wednesday, and those are open to the public. They will not be televised, but if you have any interest in hearing from those candidates, tomorrow there is 1 at 7 p.m., and then Wednesday there are 3, 6, 6:30, and 7, and they'll take place here in the boardroom. And just to outline that timeline, we will have a special board meeting next Monday at 6 p.m. to vote on our new school board member. And then they will be sworn in at the meeting. If everything falls into place as we've planned so carefully, they'll be sworn in at the June 24th school board meeting. So that is our timeline so that everyone's aware of that process. And I believe that's all I have. So is there any?
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Steve. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, thank you.